Hello, and today we will be playing The Taste of Fire. First, pointed out on the map he sketched for us where we could find water for our stay, and that's something we will have to look for after. My mind wanders back to our short trip to the hot springs from several days ago, how carefree and safe I had felt there. There's none of that this time. Even knowing Valos is keeping himself vigilant, I can't help but fear that the fox may be lurking in every saddle, bidding his time for another attempt on our lives. All because I had the misfortune of running into a damn bandit before I had managed to get to the first town on my journey. Not once, but twice. Whatever Valos says is still true that it was my carelessness that led us here, landed him back in the kind of danger he had sought to escape. Will this be enough? Valos steps through the entrance carrying a stack of twigs. I nodded and pointed to a spot near the opening in the cave wall, where the smoke would blow outside. Make it smaller, actually. We did not want too much smoke. It might lead whoever might be looking for us here. Good point. I will handle the cooking. For next time, I will see if I can gather some mushrooms or roots to make it into a stew. I think I saw a pot here somewhere. That would be great, Sam. You probably noticed I'm not good with food. I chuckled at the memory of the burnt breakfast he brought me the other day. It's just a thought that counts, no? Besides, since we do not have much else to do, I could always teach you. Not that I can do much more than the simplest of meals. I do not believe I make a good student in this. There's not much to it. Just treat it as compensation for you teaching me how to fight. I almost teased him about his noble descent, and if cooking would be beneath him, but I decided not to. He mulls over my proposal for a moment longer before smiling at me. I suppose it's a fair trade. Great, then. I pointed to the pile of wood, and after another beat of silence, Valos' eyes widened in realization. All right. Will you mind? I've already turned around and continued skinning our meal. I should ask him about his peculiar reluctance to breathe fire when I can see it sometime. At my back I hear a whoosh, and then the blaze crackles to life with a pleasant snapping of wood. Valos then stands at my soda, looking curiously as I finish preparing the rabbit to be roasted. I should have gotten us some salt while we were still in town. I paused to stare at him with my brows furrowed. What? How will you afford salt? I thought you were running errands for Herschel because you lack coin. I have a little. Valos, salt is expensive. It is? This time I can't restrain myself, and I laugh at the look of incredulity plastered across the dragon's face. Salt, spices, even a lot of herbs. I've never known these to be in the households of anyone but the wealthiest people in my village. Even then, it was rare. The kind of merchants who sell them would not even bother with a place like Arwick. To think the ones who could afford it had to travel to the nearest city to buy. I didn't realize. He looks away embarrassed as I continue to chuckle while persisting to spit over the fire. Here, how about you handle this? Just make sure to rotate it regularly before the meat starts to blacken. Valos nods and does as instructed. Watching him stare at the sizzling piece of flesh with such a look of intense concentration is endearing. He clearly wants to make sure he doesn't mess up. I imagine you had others cook for you all your life, no? As we had servants to take care of all our needs. I imagine that is the same for all noble families. Was there no nobility in the village of yours? No, none. Well, maybe you would have some drunkard claim they had noble blood, but nobody took that seriously. I doubt Alwick is important enough for any noble to claim it as theirs. But there were two families who were better off than the rest of us, and they employed a servant or two. They could always employ a lad or two for whatever task needed doing. It must be difficult to handle everything on your own. It is rarely on your own. Most have families to rely on. Fellows averts his eyes from the rabbit. It gives me a serious look tinged with curiosity. But not you. No, not me. But even at the orphanage, we split our chores, so I did not have to do everything all the time. I see. How come a small village like that seems to have had many children left with no family? The question surprises me, and I scratch my head while I think. Keep your eye on the meat. The dragon scrambles to turn the spit again, cringing at the slight bit of charring that has appeared on one side. Sorry. It is fine. For what I have been told, some kind of illness swept the countryside not long before I was born. Took a lot of lives. When I was growing up, not a lot of children joined the orphanage. Most of the orphans there were around my age, or a little older. By the time I was old enough to leave, there was not much need of the place anymore. That's good, I suppose. Yeah. And you had no relatives to take care of you? None that I know. Is that not something you can find out? I do not think so. Your family didn't keep records of your lineage? Fellows, I think that is the kind of thing only noble families would care to do. I see. And well, even if that were not true, my parents did not leave me with much. He continues cooking the rabbit, looking lost in thought while I take a seat on a smooth rock and observe him. The silence is broken soon enough, however. I suppose there would be no need for commoners to keep extensive records like that, not when questions of succession aren't as important. In my case, I have at least a passing familiarity with all dragons related to me by blood, even if they do not carry my family name. Because should something befall the main branch of the house Elwood, they will be heirs to all of it. Not to mention the need to keep track of all the alliances through marriage that have been established over decades and centuries. I nod as I stand and walk over to Val to help him take the rabbit off the fire. It's difficult to imagine what it would be like to have family links across the whole empire. Not so long ago, my world began and ended with a tiny village in the middle of the woods near the border between two nations that likely didn't even know our existed. We wait for the meal to cool off a little, then dig in, breaking off choice bits first and leaving the less appetizing parts for later. I'm conscious of the fact that the lack of anything to garnish the meat with must make the meat quite bland for fellows. But he doesn't complain, and all I can do is compliment him on a job well done. The task may have been simple, but it was new to him, and I can appreciate his focus. The dragon seems happy at my words and finishes his meal with a smile. I wipe the leftovers carefully so we have something for the evening, and for a while we sit in silence, content. Eventually, however, my thoughts return to the conversation from earlier. Do you mind if I ask you more questions about your family? Oh, I didn't expect you to be that curious. If I'm being honest, I'm sorry. It is not something we need to talk about if you would rather not. No, I don't mind. Truth be told, I'm curious about your life as well, so it's only fair. My life will bore you to tears, fellows. I don't believe that's true, but regardless, you may ask me anything. Just curious, well, how you feel about being away from them. You know, you said House Elwood would be fine without you, but do you miss them? The earlier content smile had faded from Valos' snout completely. He greets my question with a heavy sigh. It's complicated. I do miss him. I love my family. I love my siblings. I love my parents, even as I wish my father would lay his business aside and not drag the house to a bloody mess. I can't deny I admire him. But at the same time, I do not regret leaving. If given the choice, I would do so again, especially now that the journey has led me to someone like you. If this burning in my cheeks tells me I must be blushing, I hastily look away. I hope you're right and your family will be well, then. I'm sure they will. This may be an insensitive question, Sam, but what about yourself? If your parents were still alive, would you have stayed in your village? Well, my parents are alive, far I know, at least. But you talked earlier about the illness that made orphans out of many children. I had thought many, but I was not one of them. My parents did not die. They just left me. Fellows gives me a stunned look. I do not really care if they are still alive or not, to be honest. I would not care to meet the people who abandoned me either way. Do you know why? Why what? Why they left you? I don't, and I do not care. Aren't you curious at all? Curious about reasons I was abandoned? No, not in the slightest. The dragon works his jaw, is trying to come up with a response. This rolling anger inside me that I didn't expect to feel at all. It's not directed at Valos, but I wish he'd stop asking about this. At the same time, I was the one who insisted on questioning him about his family. It's only natural he'd do the same about mine. Do you know who they were? No, and like I told you, I do not know if I have any relatives to speak of either. So for all you know, your parents could be royalty. The statements are absurd, and my anger evaporates, and I let out peals of laughter. Valos, meanwhile, looks bemused. No, I'll sue you. I'm certain my parents are not royalty, or nobles, or anything of that sort. Even if they were, there's all the more reason not to meet them. No, having servants cook for you may be fine and all, but you did not make that life sound all that appealing. I'm sure not every noble's life is like mine. Not everyone seeks to take the throne, which means they don't have as many enemies. Maybe not, but regardless, I have no way of fighting them, even if I wanted to. I understand. What was your life like? I mean, besides the dangers you described, surely it was not all bad. No, of course not. I have nothing to compare it to. But truthfully, despite everything you have told me about yours, I have a difficult time imagining how a commoner's life would be like. But I suspect that in a lot of ways mine was much easier. You made me realize I've had comforts I never even gave a second thought. Being able to sort your food is not necessarily what would have made your life different. You're right, but be that as it may, however, I will say to you what you said to me earlier. My life would bore you to tears. It was all training and study to prepare me for the future. Everything an heir of a noble house would need to know to carry his family name with dignity. You have said before that the dragon who taught you to fight was pretty strict. Not just him, he was downright lenient compared to my other instructors. Not surprising, though. I found politics to be so tiresome. Any less strict, and I would have learned nothing at all. I wait for Valos to continue, but when he doesn't, I raise one eyebrow up in surprise. That is it? Just training and learning? Valos swells in response to that. Plenty of social events as well. Meeting representatives of other noble houses, hunts, feasts, but it was still just politics. What did you do for fun? The dragon gives me a blank stare. Speak with people, read. That just sounds like you were doing more learning. You're not wrong. It wasn't much for reading anyway. Combat training was more fun. I practiced plenty on my own. What about your siblings? Do you not play with them? They were as busy with their studies as I was with mine. So, you did not actually do much for entertainment. He tilts his head in thought. That's not true. There was plenty of entertainment, just it was never just entertainment. There was always another layer to it. I can't say I understand what Valos means by that, but I can say that his childhood sounds dreadful. Not in the same way mine was, maybe, but not good either. Do you know any games? Of course. Care to play one with me? Oh, I don't really know any games we could play here, or with just the two of us. What? Not even something like Three Pebbles? He draws his brows together and shakes his head. I grab a stick from the pile he brought in earlier and draw the familiar grid on the dirt-covered section of the floor. It's clear from Valos's expression that he doesn't know what I'm doing. I'm surprised you have never played this. I'm sorry? No, don't be. It is very simple here. I hand him another stick, then seat him in front of the grid I drew before joining him myself. We will take turns drawing pebbles inside the grid. Mine will be hollow, yours will not. Yours will have a dot in the middle. Whoever manages to line up three in any direction wins. I demonstrate as I explain, drawing the round seats with my stick. It's one of the simplest children's games I know. I've spent many a night passing time like this with the others from the orphanage. Most others require some manner of props to play. I could spend some time later while we're hiding out here carving what I need from the wood gathered outside, but for now I can tell Valos is interested. So, like this, he draws his pebble in the middle right of the grid once I've cleared what was left over from my explanation. With a nod, I draw my hollow pebble in the center. Valos hesitates to make the next move, ultimately deciding on an attempt to draw a straight vertical line. As I counter his moves, he fails to notice the trap I set, and his eyes widen in surprise when I scratch over the grid with my stick. Huh. How? Oh. Do you want to try again? Yes. I'm a bit taken aback at his enthusiasm, but I nod, clear the dirt with my foot, and we draw the grid. This time it goes even worse for the dragon. He clenches his jaw tight as I prepare the third round, his eyes practically burning with intensity as he examines the battlefield. This time it ends at a draw, eliciting a frustrated sigh from him. Are you having fun? Yes, go again. I do, and he lets me start this time. After that, Valos considers each of his moves so carefully I can't help but chuckle quietly to myself. So I get distracted from the game enough that when Valos draws his line with a triumphant flourish, I'm left blinking in surprise. Yes, I did it. Well done. He looks very pleased with himself, and the sight makes me quite happy in turn. Let's keep going. I glance out the cave opening. Should we maybe take some time to make sure the surrounding area is still safe together, We can play after that. Yes, you're right. We depart the cave again and go up the hill to get a better view. Where I left earlier hasn't been triggered, and make a mental note to check again in the evening before it gets dark. We stay mostly quiet during the patrol so as not to attract unwitting attention, but nobody seems to be around. The forest that stretches below us is tranquil, and while anything could be lurking in the shadows, Valos claims he doesn't sense any danger nearby. Still, we take some time to erase our tracks as best we can, closer to our hideout. You need some sleep. If not now, then promise me that you will get some rest tonight and let me take the watch. I will sleep a little later. You promise we play the Three Pebbles again. His pouting makes me laugh, causing him to look away in embarrassment. But I still notice a smile while I assure him that we will play. Of course, as it always does, the game devolves into a draw after draw, but while I start getting bored, Valos clearly continues to enjoy himself as I indulge him for some time. By the time we finish, the grid has been withdrawn over and over, and I'm thinking feverishly of other games we can play instead next time. Thank you for teaching me, Sam. There's no need to thank me for something as trivial. But honestly, I thought every kid anywhere knew this game. Valos slumps his shoulders at my comment, feeling bad. I placed my hand on his forearm, smiling. I'm glad you had fun. He returns my smile. So then, this would be something human nobles would play? I would not know. I imagine so, although for all I know, their upbringing could be as strict as yours. He nods, his expression thoughtful. I can tell you for certain that children in my village play a lot of games, not like this, to pass the time between chores or just for fun. Now that I think about it, the adults who gambled drunk at the end were no different, doing so over a variety of games. I've seen Herschel's patrons do that as well. I never had enough to be willing to bet it on a game or chance, but gambling must be fun in its own way. The fun is in the reward for winning, I think. Yes, I imagine you're right. You won more than I did, but I don't have any prize for you either. We are not gambling, besides you have already gifted me with your dagger. That is more than enough. His smile turns a little wistful, and he looks away to stare at the sliver of the sky visible in the gap. After several moments, he turns to me again. Did Alwick have some kind of an academy for the children? Like for learning? Yes, you can read, so I imagined there was a place where you could be taught. No, not really. We were just lucky that the woman taking care of us could read herself, and she taught us as well. The wealthy families just paid her to go to their houses and teach their children there. You mean they had an outsider come to teach their children? Well, she was not really an outsider. Everyone knew everyone else, pretty much. Yes, but still, that sounds dangerous, no? How so? Never mind. Well, I'm certain hiring teachers is a common occurrence, and, well, they are often elderly, so what harm could they really do? Yeah, I suppose you're right. I'm simply used to things being done differently. My father would hesitate to invite an outsider to educate us. So you were taught by your family. My family of those who had served it for a long time, dragons who had proven their loyalty to House Edward. I see. Velos blinks and smiles, and pats me on the elbow like I did to him earlier. Do not mind me. I'm just wondering how different life out here is from what I was used to. Yeah, I understand. We chit-chat more about this and that, Velos explaining more about his childhood growing up among nobility, while I tell him about growing up in a small village. As that conversation has run its course, I propose Valos gives me some more combat lessons, and he happily obliges. It's when I notice that the sun has started to drop towards the horizon that I suggest we pause and for the dragon to finally get his well-deserved rest. The next few days pass without incident. It is oddly peaceful, even especially after we find the water source Herschel had indicated for us. It doesn't even feel that boring with Valos with me. It's good to talk to. Part of me wishes I had known him years ago. It would have made my childhood years much more pleasant. Yeah, I suppose you're right. I'm simply used to things being done differently. My father would hesitate to invite an outsider to educate us. So you were taught by your family. My family of those who had served it for a long time, dragons who had proven their loyalty to House Edward. I see. Velos blinks and smiles, and passed me on the elbow like I did to him earlier. Do not mind me, I'm just wondering how different life out here is from what I was used to. Yeah, I understand. We chit-chat more about this and that, Velos explaining more about his childhood growing up among nobility, while I tell him about growing up in a small village. As that conversation has run its course, I propose Velos gives me some more combat lessons, and he happily obliges. It's when I notice that the sun has started to drop towards the horizon that I suggest we pause and for the dragon to finally get his well-deserved rest. The next few days pass without incident. It is oddly peaceful, even especially after we find the water source Herschel had indicated for us. It doesn't even feel that boring with Velos with me. It's good to talk to. Part of me wishes I had known him years ago. It would have made my childhood years much more pleasant. But this is good enough. Hunting together, teaching him simple games, having him tell me more about life in the great dragon empire. And we could even journey together after this business with the bandits is well and over. Maybe. Sam? Hear my name through the haze of sleep. At first I think it was just a dream, but the more I hear it, the more real it becomes. Sam! Finally I come to my senses. I'm still half asleep, but it's hard not to feel Velos shaking me by the shoulders. Velos, what happened? Have we been... Oh, thankfully, but this is still important. I'm sorry for waking you up so early, but this is urgent. I pause for a moment. I'm not sure what would cause Velos to act this way except for us being found. Except? I'll try my best to chase that thought away. Can you at least explain to me what it is exactly? I need to go on a very important errand. What? For how long? I will be back shortly. Just stay here for a while and don't go anywhere, alright? Even as I stare at him, dazed, it's pretty clear that his errand is but an excuse. If the need arose for waking me up so early and suddenly, then something truly bad must have happened. I take the time to rub my eyes, trying to shake off the sleep. Val, what is going on? As the silence stretches without Velos answering my question, my heart starts to beat faster. Val? While trying to get decent, I quickly examine the hideout despite the darkness, only to find out that he already left. Crap. My hesitation lasts just for several seconds. I knew that theoretically, Velos is older and more experienced than me, but just like me, his judgment isn't always for the best. And something tells me that his new decision falls in that category. Whatever happens, I need to know what's going on. As silently as I can, I sneak out of the cave, then freeze there. There's another dragon standing outside of the cave, and I already know who it is. And the fact that Wellington made it all the way here leaves not a shadow of a doubt in my mind that our new problem is indeed urgent. Wellington? The dragons look at me with a bit of a suck. Sam, I told you to stay in the cave. Val, what the hell's going on? Can you two maybe explain yourselves? I suddenly realize that this is the first of our entire time together when we have truly gotten angry at each other. I really didn't want it happening, but it's difficult to hide my frustration at Velos' odd behavior right now. At the same time, I can't believe that I would say this, but I really hope that the reason for this meeting is something trivial, like Val wanting to get pleasure by Well again, instead of something more serious. Well, maybe not that exactly, but now that Velos is expressing interest in me, but even that petty hope is quickly dashed. Herschel and his inn got attacked by the bandits. What? Deep in my mind, I had suspected all along that this, or something similar, was the reason, yet somehow I'm still in disbelief. Why the hell did you say that? What's the point in dancing around the issue? He had figured it out sooner or later anyway. This is because of me, is it not? You catch on pretty quickly. Yes, and until you return to them, Herschel will remain a hostage, which means that at the moment his safety is quite enough. Not another word, Welson. I feel like I got doused in ice-cold water. Valos's words barely reach my ears, even as his voice becomes gentle again. Sam, I'm sorry. I didn't want you to know about this or worry about it. I do not understand. Why in the world would they go to such lengths just to get me? Do they hate me so much that they would even resort to this? But I did not even do anything to them. No one can say at this point, but whatever the case, you have nothing to be afraid of. I'm still with you. That's not the point. Herschel is in trouble because of me, simply for letting me stay at his end while I recovered. It takes me some time to recover from the shock. I feel Val's warm embrace around me. In other circumstances, I would enjoy it, but right now I'm too busy trying to wrap my head around what's happened. If it had been so noble, I would maybe understand their actions getting me and selling me back to the house for a steep price, but I'm just no one, yet they still keep coming after me. Why? So, what now? My voice is distant, numb. After a brief pause, Valos answers. And I tend to go and inform them that you are no longer with me. Do you honestly think it would work? That excuse wouldn't fly even with the dumbest of them. I couldn't for the life of me imagine them saying, well then, we will go and leave everyone unharmed, because it's such a simple lie. My memory leaps back to that horrible wino. No, such a cheap stunt definitely isn't going to work. Val, do not go. I'm afraid that it will end badly for you. Sam. We stand there in silence until Welson speaks up again. So you abandoned him after all? Can't say I blame you. You have the right to prowl towards your own self-preservation still. That wasn't my intention either. An unbelievable guilt has taken over. Herschel is being held hostage and can't be worried about myself. Too selfless. He has done so much for me, for us. If my life causes so much suffering to those around me, the hell's with it. I will submit. Excuse me? If they want me so badly, let them just have me already. My life, well, it is not important now, is it? You can't be serious. The Sardites are locked on me. No, absolutely not. Out of the question. We will find another way. Before he's even done speaking, I'm shaking my head. I know I won't win this argument by normal means, so I have no choice but to resort to this. Valos, do you remember telling me about how you left home? Judging by his expression, he has no idea where this is going, so I continue. If by chance one of your siblings would get hurt, no, if they would get killed during noble house wars, and you were not there to protect them, how would you feel? Judging by his dumbfounded expression, my words have reached their goal, maybe even a little too well. Wilson lets out a low whistle in the background. That was quite a low blow, huh? He has a point, though. Maybe you should start babysitting him like your own hatchling, and start thinking about others a bit more, just like a real noble would. Thankfully, Valos completely ignores him. But he isn't even your relative. You're right. I don't really have relatives, but that's all the more reason to help him. People like you and him are rare nowadays because you are still able to show selflessness, kindness to others. Isn't that enough of a reason? Might I interrupt you again? For a moment, our attention switches back to Welson. While you two were arguing, I managed to think of a plan that might not require the human self-sacrificial resolve, although I can't say it won't put him in danger at all. I've already heard enough. I will not permit any plan that involves danger to Sam. What does it involve danger to me by this point? How many attempts in my life have there been so far? And what was even the point of you teaching me how to fight? It was as a last resort. I hope that you would never have to use those skills. You haven't even been trained for long. I already have used it. Or have you forgotten how we were ambushed by the fox? I still miss a lot, didn't I? what exactly happened with you two while I wasn't around. Now's not the time. We'll explain everything later. Right now, I will hear out your plan. Despite his earlier objections, it seems that at this point my relentless onslaught of arguments have crippled his resolve a little, although he still sounds hesitant. Now, since you are giving me an opportunity, I might as well make the best of it while I can. You're right. Time indeed is of the essence, so you two would do well to listen carefully. Here's what I'm suggesting. The human will act as a bait of sorts. For now, Valos remains the largest threat to bandits, so if Sam will come to them alone, they will most likely believe that their main source of danger isn't present anymore. So a simple ambush. It's not much, but Wells' plan is already looking much better than Valos's. Of course, I'm not exactly happy just exposing myself to the bandits, considering they could kill me any time in that case, but I'm absolutely sure that the bandits are more likely to believe in the absence of Valos and mine. As suspected, however, Valos is fast to object. Is this, really necessary? Unless you're confident enough about taking out the whole gang single-handedly, while the tavern isn't exactly swarming with them, I believe you're better off picking them off one by one. Furthermore, if you were able to take out their leader as soon as possible, there's a high chance that the rest of them might flee. Won't you agree? He's right, Val. If it's just me, they would have no reason to come out in force. I'm sure the Wano will be happy to come greet me himself. Somehow our argument is doing a good job at persuading Valos so far. I hope it will stay that way for the near future at least. But how can we be sure that the bandits will believe that I'm no longer there? You probably don't know it yet, but the bandits have placed quite a bounty on your human. We did know that. The fox says much. I still can't believe that my head is worth any kind of bounty. So I can pretend to be a bounty hunter who kidnapped him in order to hand him over? No, I don't like it. Too dangerous and unreliable. I'd be better off handling this entirely by myself. A sign of frustration, so stubborn. Does he really think that there is a better way, or does he suspect Rel might be a traitor? How long are you going to cling to him? Can't you see that this is the best opportunity we can get? Taking out an entire gang? Think straight for once. Aren't you forgetting yourself, you low-life peasant? Valos' voice suddenly grows cold and imposing. I look at him in shock. He clenches his teeth angrily, not paying me any heed. His eyes focus on Welson. Might I remind you that if you would have finished off that bandit who attacked your oppressor Sam, then maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't have found ourselves in this situation to begin with. Enough. The two dragons stop arguing, both turning their heads to me in surprise. I could barely recognize my voice right now, let alone Val's, or myself for that matter. Never in my life would I have thought that I would have to use such a tone when speaking to dragons, one of which is a noble no less. But since I did finally find myself in such a situation, I have to handle it as best as I possibly can. I'm sorry, I did not mean to shout, but either way, going back and forth with your arguments would not help us. We need to cooperate, Val. And carefully consider my choice of words for the next bit. I know how you feel. I know because I feel that way about you fighting alone. I cannot stand aside and let other people handle everything for me forever. So if Welson's plan is the best we have, then I'm ready to put myself in danger. Val's expression turned grimmer than I have seen thus far. I'm not happy to see him like this, but in such dire circumstances I cannot allow my convincing to falter. But we do not even know if his plan is the best one we have. Do you truly want to potentially throw your life away over this? Valos, Sam has just made a decision to sacrifice himself for someone. That is not something you can call throwing our life away. Nelson, it is alright, really, and Val, I'm not throwing my life away. Before I met you, I always prioritized my own well-being and safety above everyone else. It was with your that I realized that prioritizing the safety of others is more important than my own. Besides, I am not the puny human you met before. I have learned a thing or two when it comes to self-defense. The Fox can attest to that. So if something will happen, I will be able to stand up for myself. So please, just allow me to help you, to help Herschel. The dragon regards me, then looks away. For several moments, he is lost in his thoughts, staring blankly ahead. Finally, Valos lets out a deep sigh. You indeed have grown quite a lot for such a short period of time, and yet I would rather prefer that you didn't. Yeah, sorry, childhood cannot last forever. Alright, I will comply with your plan. However, Valos turns to Wilson, his expression turning especially stern. While I am not around, some falls under your responsibility, so you will answer for everything that's going to happen to him. Got that? Yeah, sure. I need a more convincing answer. I can't help but roll my eyes. No harm will befall him under my watch. Will that do? Promise? Yes. Well then, it is settled. What's our next course of action? For now we better prepare to head back to the village and get Herschel. Once we are ready to depart and head near the village borders, then we will put our plan into motion. Val reluctantly agreed. I could understand him. I got so attached to him that I myself didn't want to leave him for long, but for now we have to put those feelings aside. Well then, let us prepare. I spent a couple of moments gathering the few remaining possessions. It's not much, mostly just equipment for everyday use, such as hunting sets and provisions. It's very hard to focus even on this simple task, since I'm feeling extremely anxious about the trial ahead of me. Is this how soldiers feel when marching towards war? All of a sudden, I feel grateful for the fact that I was born in a small village and not under a noble house, where wars are apparently all too common. My glance slides across some scribbles on the ground, which I quickly recognize to be just the 3 pebbles filled from earlier. I realized how long it had been since I felt the joy of little things like these, and my dread at the upcoming departure grows even more. It almost feels like a dying old man trying to have as many breaths as he can before his inevitable end. There are so many more things I want to discuss with Valos. Ask more about his family. Tell him how different life is outside of it. Just to be near him more. To think that I would become so attached to someone I know for such a small period of time. And maybe I'll get to those things. I can only hope if everything goes according to plan. But regardless of how I feel, there are more pressing matters at hand. I return from the cave with the 2 dragons waiting for me outside. Need help with carrying anything? Thanks, but I think I can handle it. After all, I managed to beat a big scary fox, so some weighty bag is no match for me. Val chuckles at the joke, but Wilson looks at me with obvious concern. It seems he's perceptive and knows to notice my actual mood. Together, we start heading for the inn. So, how exactly did this happen? Well, at first, everything was fine. Even better since you left, as your presence had been keeping some customers away. Were we really intimidating enough to scare away so many customers? Humans aren't a common occurrence here, let alone dragons, so it was obvious that some were a bit afraid to be near you two, especially Valos. If any dragon were to ever appear in my village, they would probably be unable to handle the amount of attention. If anything, they would only attract more customers. In that case, this dragon better be a good one, like me. I can't help but chuckle at the comment that surprisingly alleviated a certain amount of pressure I had been feeling. I imagine beastmen have a slightly different mentality. What about you? Would not they have been scared of you as well then? No, I know my way around people. I even managed to make some coin. Alright, since almost blurted out that Rel was essentially a prostitute, but luckily neither of them paid any attention to my remark. Anyway, I take it that the fox is dead. I hope so. I can only wish I had smashed his head harder enough. He better be. We definitely don't want an extra bandit to deal with, although the fact that you managed to do that is quite a feat even by itself. Well, I had a good teacher. The better question is, why didn't you deal with him? Weren't you supposed to help Herschel? Unfortunately, there was only so much I can do, and only so many bandits I could slay single-handedly. Wells's voice is dripping with sarcasm. So it just ditched Herschel, right? I didn't ditch him. It was he who asked me to warn you to begin with. With someone who was accusing us of being selfish, you yourself don't seem too keen of wishing yourself, do you? What would you have expected me to do? Val, lay off. I feel like I may well be the only person Val listens to at this point. He would have most likely just died if he stayed. What good would that be? Val seems to be, yet again, taken aback by my retort. I'm sorry, maybe I stepped out of line again. Just stop snapping at Wilson. He's been helping us. Wilson's glimmering face has slowly lightened up, so I assume I did what I intended to. This bandit issue needs to be resolved quickly, before we get mired in more arguments. Easier said than done. Well, maybe it is indeed for the best. After all, they have a much scarier dragon to deal with now. As he said that, he flexed his muscles again. Valis' playful boasting lifts my mood a little. I was starting to think he's doing it just for that very reason. So off. Well, you seem to like it. Sus. Wilson also seems to be entertained. You two are just like an old married couple. We both look at him. There seems confused looks. I've heard that actual marriages are not always happy, with the couple sometimes parting ways due to their differences or living together more out of habit than anything, constantly arguing with each other. Now that's not how I feel about Valos at all. If he's stubborn and overly protective at times, it feels good to be around him, and I want to continue being around him. In which case, there is no way I'm going to die. I will survive. For him. The walk through the woods is long, but eventually the town appears on the horizon. We discussed that as a safety measure, we better approach it from behind. That way we'll be unnoticed until putting our plan to action and thus have more time to prepare. We stop at a safe distance, hiding from sight. So let us run through our plan again, just to be sure. Right. I was getting worried that I might have forgotten key moments. Wilson, however, looks even more worried than me. Wilson, is everything fine? Yes, sorry. It's just, now that we're here, I worry about Herschel's safety. It is alright, Wilson. It's basically near us now. All we have to do is to get him out of here. Only after saying that do I realize how silly that just sounded. Even so, Wilson gives me a grateful nod and a smile. So, we have to tie Sam up to make an impression that Wilson has caught him. Afterwards, we have to make the bandits handle Herschel over first, pretending you'll give them Sam after that. So I still do not really like the sound of it. Because you're going? No, that's not what I mean. I'm not backing out now. I just don't think we will manage to make bandits handle Herschel off first. I doubt they will be easy to negotiate with. The memory of cocky Rhino, who almost enslaved me, flashes through my mind, and my concern only grows. Sam is right. They could just start torturing Herschel before our eyes until we give up. We have nowhere to retaliate if something like that happens. Alright, I see your point, but at least we have to see that he's alive first. After all, they can't torture him before we have seen him ourselves, right? Anyway, after we confirm that Herschel is safe, Wilson will pretend to hand over Sam to the bandits. Around that time, I will give an attack signal. And as soon as I see that, I'll charge into combat. Just remember that I'm not much of a fighter, Valos. You won't have to do much of that. I will handle most of the fighting. I just need a little bit of your backup. Sam and Herschel should run and hide behind the inn. I suppose Herschel might be confused by the ongoing chaos, so I better grab him immediately and guide him out myself. I should be able to do that much, right? That would be most welcome, yes. I noticed Val giving me weird glances. Even without him saying anything, I can guess that he really wants me to prioritize my own safety first, yet can't say that so as to not upset Val. Even so, my mind is made up. Alright, I got it. No objections. Valos looks relieved at that. Maybe it's because I didn't insist on fighting too, or perhaps he was taking my approval or their plan very seriously. Well then, no point in delaying any longer. I guess it's time to take our positions. Despite both of them acting confident about the plan, I still can't help but be afraid. Sam, are you well? I am. Shit. Wilson Valos, hugging him without being able to stop myself. Seems like anxiety has gotten the better of me after all. The dragon's a bit taken aback at first, but then I feel his strong arm squeezing me in return. It's alright, Sam. Don't worry. I'll be very close. This ordeal will be over before it even starts. Yeah, I know. And by the way, you promised we play Three Pebbles again. Don't you dare break that promise. Huh. I would not dream of it. Finally, feeling better, I let go. Okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. Do you have your dagger? I set my belt where the sheath dagger is hidden, then nod at Valos, who returns the gesture before returning to Wilson. Taking off another knife from his own belt, he tosses it to the red dragon. Remember, be ready on my signal. I know. I'll sneak into position then. Make your way to the front of the inn once all the preparations are done. We both nod as Valos waves his worried face settling into an expression of grim resolve and disappears into the bushes. Wilson takes the piece of rope we had taken from the cave and starts slowly wrapping it around my outstretched hands. I'm sorry it came to this. I did not realize things were bad enough that the bandits would resort to simply marching into the inn. You could not have known. Not that we were ready for that either, otherwise I would not have agreed to hide in that cave at all. At least we survived that ambush. Yeah. How was your stay at that hideout? As he asked the question, Wilson gives the rope one last tug. I examined his handiwork carefully before responding. He's done a good job of making it look like my hands are tied together, but in truth, I'll feel free the instant I let go of the loose end he placed in my left palm. Believe it or not, it was fairly pleasant. Valos and I talked, and I can feel my cheeks burning a little. The smoke appeals on Wilson's snout. Despite the circumstances, the little chat is a welcome distraction from the building anxiety. It was this, go over the plan again, or brood in silence as we give Valos enough time to get in position. Well, it turns out Valos is interested too, and he wants to try. Oh, I see. That's good, Sam. I'm glad you decided to be open with him. Yeah, I'm glad too. That explains what made you stay in the cave pleasant. With the way the smirk turns into a full grin, it's not difficult to guess at what else is thinking about. No, it is not like that. We have not, Wilson laughs. It's alright, Sam. Don't take my teasing seriously. Does you at least know how much you enjoyed what you saw the other day? I blush again, worse this time. Haven't forgotten about that incident completely by now. I thought about it, about mentioning it to him, when we first spoke about all this. But it was not a good time, and I do not think we, I do not think he would think well of me for just standing there. I don't believe Valos is so prudent to hold that against you, but you're right. There will be a better time to speak of such things. Speaking of which, he looks towards the town, shading his eyes with his hand. I follow his gaze. Like before, the town is quiet. I wonder if the beastmen living there even realize who these people at Herschel's Inn are. I suggested trying to speak to them to get support, but Valos wasn't having any of it. As far as he's concerned, we're on our own. I think it's time we go as well. I go up and nod. After apologizing, Wilson puts a piece of cloth in my mouth. With that, we start moving forward. Alright, so I'll stop here for today. So, Sam is going to be used as bait to make it look like Welzen is going to hand Sam over to the bandits, when really it's just an excuse for Valos to ambush the bandits. So it's a risky operation, but it's something that could work. I hope it's successful. I have no idea what those bandits want with Sam, why they want him so badly, and Sam himself don't know either. Anyway, when they were at the cave, they had more time to talk to each other about each other's lives, and Welzen he got a proper education, and he was taught how to fight, and he read books, and he was trained to deal with politics. Now, yeah, he's a noble, and he got the best when it came to necessities, but being constantly at risk of being killed in a rivalry for the throne to the Great Dragon Empire, that is very stressful on him, and I can't blame him for leaving. And Sam, he does not like his parents. He felt his parents abandoned him, and that made Sam very angry when he talked to Valos about his parents, and that he doesn't care about his parents. He doesn't care whether they are alive or dead. And that game that Sam taught Valos how to play with, that was a cute moment. Something as minor as that game made Valos very excited about. He got very excited over a simple game like that. When there are more elaborate and there are more sophisticated games that the people in Sam's village play. But he got very excited over a simple game like that, so the fact that he did, it means that he did not really have much fun in his life as a noble. He didn't really play games. He was constantly being trained. He was constantly training and learning, and he didn't really have much time for fun. So Both of them lived very different lives, but they had their both. Both of them had their ups and downs, just different ways. And with Sam, yes, he didn't have the necessities that Valos had, but he did at least have some people there that he would talk to, and he didn't constantly go through the danger of being killed. I mean, he's not important, and he's not in a place, an area where, I mean, he's not an important person in the tribe or the village that he came from. Nobody really cares. Now the Beastman really cares about the village, so he's really, I mean, sure he didn't get everything and necessities, but he was safe. He spent his whole life in safety because he wasn't all that important, and he lived in an isolated village away from all the danger, all the warring kingdoms, and all the other beastmen. So he lived a safe life. So anyway, next time we'll figure out whether this plan of theirs works or not. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.